Here are 20 weird facts you never knew about Hausu. Number 1. A man turns into bananas. In what is arguably the film's most inexplicable and celebrated moment of pure surrealism, a side character undergoes a bizarre transformation. The girls' handsome teacher, Mr. Togo, has followed them to the countryside out of concern. He stops to talk to a friendly watermelon seller who cryptically informs him that the girls have been eaten by a house. Now, most people would scream and run, maybe even pass out, but Mr. Togo disintegrates into a large pile of bananas. There is no let-up, no explanation, and no aftermath. It's just one of the many moments of unfiltered dream logic absurdity that makes the film so unique, confounding, and ultimately beloved. Number 2. It was supposed to be Japan's Jaws. In the mid-1970s, Toho Studios, the kaiju kingdom responsible for Godzilla and enough samurai epics to make swords feel like a subscription service, was flatlining at the box office. Their signature monster movies, or kaiju, and their classic samurai epics were no longer the box office draws they once were, especially with younger audiences. Then they witnessed the unprecedented global phenomenon of Steven Spielberg's Jaws and had a revelation. We need one of those. In their search for a fresh voice, they approached Nobuhiko Obayashi, an experimental filmmaker. They gave him a simple if daunting mission: make us a blockbuster hit. Obayashi heard the words "like Jaws" and immediately veered into the wildest direction imaginable. He decided that the only thing scarier and more bizarre than a giant shark was a house that physically eats teenage girls. Toho, desperate for something new, greenlit the bizarre concept, likely not realizing they had just commissioned one of the strangest films ever made. Number 3. The cast was mostly amateur models. To keep costs down and to make sure the film maintained its "what the hell am I watching" energy, Obayashi pulled a move only a true madman could. Instead of hiring real actresses, he raided the world he knew best: TV commercials. Yes, the 7 schoolgirls at the heart of House were basically plucked straight from detergent ads and candy spots. The young women were primarily models and had little to no prior acting experience. Obayashi had met many of them while shooting some of his thousands of commercials and simply collected them for his bizarre movie. The only seasoned professionals in the main cast were Yoko Minamita, who played the sinister aunt, and Kamiko Ikegami, who played the lead role of Gorgeous. This reliance on amateur talent only amplified the film's strange, dreamlike quality, contributing to an atmosphere where the performances feel just as unpredictable and surreal as the visuals. Number 4. The director had to self-promote for 2 years. Toho approved the script, but the project immediately slammed into a wall. None of their seasoned, in-house directors would go near it. None of their veteran directors wanted to touch it. Imagine being a respected filmmaker and being handed a story about a house that eats schoolgirls. You'd either laugh in their face or check if this was some kind of cruel prank. They all agreed. Directing this film was basically career suicide. The project was shelved and sat gathering dust for 2 long years. But Obayashi was not just a filmmaker, he was a relentless promoter. He took matters into his own hands and launched a guerrilla marketing campaign for a film that didn't even exist yet. He passed out business cards promoting the movie, persuaded magazines to mention the upcoming project, and even helped orchestrate a manga adaptation, a novelization, and a radio drama of the story, all before a single frame of film had been shot. This grassroots buzz campaign created a genuine sense of anticipation among the public. Toho executives were so impressed by his incredible hustle and the public interest he generated that they finally relented and, in a controversial move, allowed Obayashi, an industry outsider, to direct it himself. Number 5. The special effects were intentionally childlike. From the outset, Obayashi wanted the film's visual effects to look amateurish, unreal, and, most importantly, as if a child had created them. He actively rejected realism at every turn, viewing it as creatively boring. Instead of utilizing Toho's professional and highly respected special effects department, the very team that brought Godzilla to life, He personally supervised the effects, treating the film like a grand, chaotic art project. He combined every practical and optical trick in the book: crude stop-motion, vibrant hand-drawn animation, painted matte backdrops, and incredibly primitive blue screens. The result is an interesting visual collage where everything, from the impossibly colorful painted skies to the flying, dismembered body parts, feels joyfully, wonderfully, and deliberately fake. Number 6. The script was written by an 11-year-old. For inspiration on his Japanese Jaws, Obayashi didn't crack open Lovecraft or dust off a book of Japanese ghost stories. Nope, he turned to his 12-year-old daughter, Chigumi. Because why rely on centuries of folklore when you've got a built-in nightmare factory sitting at the breakfast table? He held a profound belief that adults could only think of boring human ideas, bound by logic and reason, while children could dream up horrors that couldn't be explained. He sat with Chigumi and asked her to list her deepest and most irrational fears. Her answers formed the very soul of the film. She described a terrifying vision of her own reflection in a mirror reaching out to eat her. She talked about how, after a long piano practice, her fingers would ache as if the instrument itself had been chewing on them. She even mentioned a strange fear of being smothered by a pile of futons, which felt like a monster attack. Obayashi took these primal, childlike terrors and, with screenwriter Chio Katsura, built them into the film's most iconic and nightmarish sequences. Number 7. The character names are literally their personalities. In one of Obayashi's strangest strokes of genius, or maybe just laziness, the 7 schoolgirls don't even get real names. They're named after their single defining character trait, much like Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. Gorgeous is the beautiful one, also called Osher in Japan, which means fashionable. Prof is the intelligent, bespectacled bookworm. Melody is the musician. Kung Fu is the athletic one who can break things with a single kick. And Sweet is the gentle one. Then there's Mac, whose name is short for stomach in Japanese because she is perpetually eating. By stripping the girls down to single traits, Obayashi created walking archetypes instead of real characters. But that's the whole point. They're not people so much as symbolic meat puppets, cartoonish stand-ins for childhood fears. I guess I'd be called fake but clever. Number 8. The Criterion Collection gave it new life. The film's resurrection and canonization in the West were cemented when it was added to the prestigious Criterion Collection, a home video label dedicated to preserving and distributing important classic and contemporary films. This act placed Hausu, a film initially panned by critics and born from a child's nightmares, in the same esteemed company as the works of legendary masters like Akira Kurosawa, Ingmar Bergman, and Federico Fellini. It was a final, beautifully bizarre twist in the story of a film that began as a commercial director's fever dream and ended up as a celebrated, immortal piece of cinematic art. Number 9. It has a secret war backstory. Beneath all the giggling schoolgirls, psychedelic editing, and carnivorous furniture, Hausu has a surprisingly heavy core. The house isn't just haunted because ghosts got a ghost, it's haunted because its owner, the ant, never got over the cruelest punchline of all: war. Her fiancé was a fighter pilot who promised to return to her, but he was killed in World War II. Consumed by grief, she has been waiting for him ever since, her sorrow turning her and her home into a predatory force. So, the aunt's hunger, and by extension the house's appetite for teenage flesh, isn't random. It is a powerful symbol of a generation's unresolved grief and quiet resentment toward the younger post-war generation, represented by the giggling schoolgirls, who never had to experience the horrors that defined their elders' lives. Number 10. The soundtrack was used for on-set direction. The soundtrack for Hausu is as unhinged as the movie itself, a Frankenstein cocktail of cheerful pop, funky grooves, and piano riffs that sound like they're being played by a ghost with jazz hands. It was composed by the rock band Godiego. And here's an interesting fact. It was finished a whole year before filming even started. Obayashi found it challenging to give traditional verbal directions to his largely inexperienced cast of models. So instead, he devised a unique directorial method. He would play the finished soundtrack loudly on set, during scenes, to help the actresses find the right mood and emotion. He believed that the younger generation was better equipped to express themselves through music and feeling rather than through abstract words. This technique directly contributed to the film's strange music video-like rhythm and its signature whiplash-inducing tonal shifts. All right, if you're enjoying this video and maybe starting to feel like pianos might be plotting against you, do me a favor and bite that like button. Let the algorithm know you appreciate the weirdness, because the story gets even crazier. If you thought the Banana Man was weird, wait until you hear about the Watermelon Man. Number 11. The director intentionally broke the fourth wall. From the film's very first moments, Obayashi wants you to be acutely aware that you are watching a movie. The opening titles don't just list the cast and crew, they literally announce the film as a movie, a bold and knowing wink at the audience. The entire film was carefully designed to shatter cinematic immersion. It employs fake-looking effects, hyper-aware editing, and impossible scene transitions to constantly remind you that none of what you're seeing is real. This self-aware Brechtian style is not a mistake, but a core artistic choice. It transforms the viewing experience from one of passive horror into one of active participation in the film's joyful, anarchic chaos. Number 12. The director was a TV commercial legend. Before he ever directed a feature film, Nobuhiko Obayashi was a titan in the world of Japanese television advertising. Over his career, he directed an estimated 2,000 to 3,000 TV commercials. His advertising work was famous for being fast-paced, visually inventive, and deeply surreal, a style he brought wholesale to Hausu. Obayashi was so in demand that he even wrangled big-name Hollywood stars into hawking Japanese products. Charles Bronson was once the face of a deodorant brand, and Kirk Douglas pitched coffee too, because clearly the guy who survived Spartacus was the most logical choice to make you crave a latte. This extensive background in packing a powerful, memorable punch into 30 or 60-second bursts is precisely why Hausu feels less like a traditional narrative film and more like a feature-length fever dream constructed from pure, uncut, and utterly insane commercial breaks. Number 13. Toho executives hated it, but audiences loved it. When Toho's executives finally saw the finished cut, they had the same expression most people have after a bad ayahuasca trip, glassy-eyed horror mixed with deep regret. They had asked for Jaws and instead got a movie where furniture eats people, a cat controls reality, and a man becomes a fruit salad. Despite their deep skepticism, they released it anyway, packaging it as the bottom half of a double feature with a conventional, sappy romance movie. Critics at the time were largely dismissive, panning the film for its bizarre style and lack of a coherent narrative. However, the film became a surprise box office hit, particularly with young audiences who completely embraced its wild, rebellious energy and made it a cult hit in Japan. Number 14. The filmmakers used every trick in the book. Obayashi's background wasn't in the traditional hierarchical world of studio filmmaking, it was in avant-garde shorts and fast-paced TV ads. He brought that everything but the kitchen sink philosophy to Hausu. The film is a dizzying 88-minute encyclopedia of cinematic techniques. Obayashi throws split screens, stop-motion animation, collage effects, kaleidoscopic color filters, picture-in-picture, and hyperactive editing at the screen with reckless abandon. It was a deliberate and gleeful rejection of the gritty, realistic filmmaking style that was popular in both Japan and Hollywood during the 1970s. Number 15. The blue screen effects are deliberately obvious. Today, filmmakers use green screens and advanced CGI to create seamless photorealistic backgrounds that immerse the audience in the world of the film. Obayashi, working with 1970s blue screen technology, used it for the exact opposite reason. He intentionally left the crude, bright blue outlines or matte lines around his characters and objects, making them look like ghostly, cut-out paper figures placed in a pop-up book. This wasn't a technical limitation or a mistake. It was a conscious, stylistic choice. The goal was to constantly enhance the film's artificial, dreamlike quality and to remind the audience that they are witnessing a handcrafted, fantastical illusion, not reality. Number 16. The rock band Godzilla makes a cameo. To further cement the film's appeal to a younger audience, Obayashi not only commissioned the popular rock band Godzilla to create the entire soundtrack, but also gave them a cameo in the film. Godzilla's music is a glorious Frankenstein's monster of pop, funk, and psychedelic rock, and it gives the movie its trademark tonal whiplash. 1 minute you're grooving to cheerful sing-along pop that feels like it belongs in a toothpaste commercial. The next you're plunged into creepy piano riffs and psychedelic horror noise that sound like the soundtrack to a nervous breakdown. Number 17. The film had no storyboard. Most directors carefully plan their films shot by shot using detailed storyboards, especially for effects-heavy productions. Obayashi, true to his experimental spirit, shot Hausu almost completely off the cuff. Working on one of Toho's largest and most expensive studio sets, he and his crew embraced a daily routine of improvisation and experimentation. They would arrive on set and come up with new visual gags, camera tricks, and special effects on the fly. This spontaneous improvisational style is a key reason why the movie feels so incredibly energetic and bursting with chaotic creativity. Number 18. It was lost to the West for decades. Despite its huge commercial success and lasting cult status in Japan, Hausu was never officially released in the United States or Europe during its initial run. For over 30 years, it remained a hidden gem. Only the most dedicated film enthusiasts and collectors of rare bootlegs knew about it. It wasn't until 2009 that the American distributor Janus Films acquired the rights and gave the film a proper high-profile theatrical and home video release. This introduced Hausu to a whole new generation of international cult movie fans who were completely blown away by its sheer originality and anarchic spirit. Number 19. The Watermelon Man. Among the film's many strange figures, one of the most mysterious is a friendly man who sells watermelons on the side of the road near the aunt's house. He is played by Ase Kobayashi, one of the film's music producers. This character seems to possess a supernatural connection to the house and its events. He mysteriously knows that the girls are headed there and comments that the aunt will be very pleased to finally have visitors. His role in the story is never explained, and in a later scene, he encounters the girl's teacher and abruptly disintegrates into a skeleton for no discernible reason. Number 20. The Evil Cat has atomic roots. One of the creepiest and most oddly adorable things in Hausu is Blanche, the aunt's fluffy white cat. At first glance, it's the kind of cat you'd expect to see on a fancy pillow, but then its eyes start glowing like nuclear headlights and suddenly you realize this isn't an ordinary pet. While a spooky cat is a classic horror trope, many read a much deeper, darker meaning into its presence. Obayashi was a native of Hiroshima and lost almost all of his close childhood friends in the atomic bombing. He explicitly stated that he wanted to create a fantasy with the atomic bomb as a central theme. The terrifying, inexplicable flash in the cat's eyes, along with other powerful images of fire and destruction, are seen by many as direct visual references to the catastrophic flash of the atomic bomb and the lingering, unresolved trauma it left on a generation. And there we go. The script that was considered so career-endingly bizarre that for 2 years no staff director at Toho would touch it. Born from the mind of a director who thought adults were boring and that true horror could only be dreamed up by a child, specifically his own 11-year-old daughter. So what part of this Technicolor nightmare will be haunting your dreams? Let us know in the comments section. Don't forget to go nuclear on our like button, subscribe for more dives into cinematic madness, and we'll see you in the next haunted house. Until then, keep it real weird.
Wow, that was weird.